The Marino Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino. I'm so excited to have my guest today, Crissy, the fearless leader of the Austin Horror Society. So excited to have you. I love all things scary, as you can see from my background on my wall. So, Crissy, thank you for being with me today.
Well, thank you. Thank you inviting me out or contacting me to be part of your show. I really appreciate it. I do want to start out with saying that even though I kind of am the leader and I am the voice and the face that goes out there and tries to get people to come and be part of our society, it is not just me who makes the decisions. It is not just me who puts on the events or puts on the reason why the society is becoming so successful. It is a group mind. I have several monitors that I keep that, each have their own experience and genres that they like and their own flavor of the horror under the horror umbrella that kind of keep our group the way that it is, because we never want to say, oh, you're just this or you're just this, because the horror covers such a big umbrella of people. We want to make sure all of the voices are represented whenever we have anything. So I'm glad that I can be here today to kind of be the voice and the face. And I do a lot of conventions and festivals. So if you ever see me out, you're welcome to come by and say hi, take a picture with me. And I am probably the one who's the goofball. I'm the loud one. I'm the one who walks around and then talks to everybody. And I have such just a joy of, this community and this society and this all love of all things thrillers for under that umbrella, that I just love being here and doing all of this for you guys. And I love that you actually do a very good job of pronouncing the word horror, because when I walk around, I tell people Austin Horror Society, and they're like, horror? Like WHORE? And I'm like, no, like the horror movies, HORROR. But I promise you, we accept all lifestyles and all lifestyle choices. We are a all-inclusive lifestyle and human experience in our society, because we like to reach out for everybody. And Austin is a very unique place of just a little bit of everything and a little bit of all kinds of the society of the world. So we love that we can be all inclusive with this, umbrella. And I've met so many wonderful people throughout Texas that we say Austin, but in reality we mean Texas, because there's just so many great people in Texas that we get to see and talk to.
And I discovered your group a few months ago. For my show, I started shifting more towards a horror focus, interviewing actors or anything related to scary. I don't just do that, but I've really focused more on that. And so when I saw your page on Facebook, what I really loved about it was that it gave a voice to, as you were saying, everyone in the horror community. I mean, people who are artists, people who want to share, things about their world. I feel it really gives a voice to them, and that's so important. So for those who don't know, what is Austin Horror Society?
Well, okay, so I am not the founder. There was a group of people, I think it was about 6. So the story that has been told to me, there's about 6 to 10 people, and they would do this thing where they would go over to their houses and they would set up a screen in the backyard, and everybody would bring a little something, and they would watch this movie, or this person would find a new movie and they'd watch that movie. And it was just this combination of, some people were new and never seen these movies, and some people were older and knew every little Easter egg in the movie. And it was just this good time to be had with their friends. And it just kind of grew, and it started to become, this person would tell this person, who'd bring in this friend, who'd bring in that coworker. And so it started out as a group that was just, let's go watch this movie together, or hey, they have this new trivia coming out, let's go do that together. And so it kind of just spiraled, and it kind of became a little bit bigger. And at some point, the group decided they had two like minds in the group. One said, let's keep it free. Everything should be free. And the other one says, well, we have to spend all of this money on venues or, tickets and whatnot. So let's make it a membership. And so at some point, the group said, no, we're going to kind of split off. Y'all can do your thing. We'll do our thing. And there you go. So Austin Horror Society became this a group, but it was all supposed to be free events, free things that you could do, free, just like, we are not going to charge you money to be part of our page. Okay. And so it moved from one person to another person. And I'm actually, I do believe, the third person to actually be the leader of the group. So when I took over the page, it actually only had about maybe 1,500 to maybe 2,000 people. And there were a lot of people who were just not very active in the community. So when I took it over, I tried to do a lot more events. So I did a horror trivia night over at the Spider House. And I tried to make sure to include everybody in it. So we have, like Saul Ravencraft. He's a great member of it. And he's been, I think he was like one of the very first members of the page. And he loves to do his screenings of his movies at Mr. Tramp's. And so you come out, and but he likes to do the old school ones. So you'll go up there and you'll watch like Rosemary's Baby or Frankenstein, and he loves to have it to where he kind of stops halfway through the film, gives you a little background. He used to do little skits in the middle. And he just loves to just be very inclusive and kind of give you more of this sense of just the old school drama of it all, right? And we had a couple of people who did different kind of trivias. And again, this is what our pages kind of come to, where it's, well, let's advertise what people are doing. We have them, they do an event where they screen movies over at the Mohawk. They have it to where we advertise for Weird Wednesday and Terror Tuesday over at the Alamos. We have a couple of people who have conventions all over Texas. So we like to be able to tell people, hey, this thing's going on over the gas station. And you know what the gas station is. If you know, you know. If you don't know, ask your friend, they'll know. But you have the gas station where they're going to have people coming out. You have where we go to San Antonio and we do the Social Revolt Kings of Horror kind of things down there, and we meet celebrities, and we go over to Houston and do Houston Film Festival. We go up to Dallas, and there's Colleen and Temple, and we try to make sure we do a little bit of everything so that we can just give everybody the experience of where they all are in Texas and just kind of around, and where they can go for a weekend or for an evening. Like I said, they still do Die Felicia with Chick-fil-A Show and Louisiana Purchase. And I think that's either at Elysium or the Iron Bear. So you have all of these different community people who have all of these different kind of flavors that they love to do stuff with that you can find in your community. So if you're not one to go to, a really late night drag show, then you can kind of go to a 7:00 movie where it's a little bit more laid back in a sports bar, or you can go to a trivia on a weekend or on a Wednesday night, or, on a Monday, just go hang out with your friends and watch a film. So it became that. And I do allow people to go on to the page once a week. They're allowed to advertise their art. So we have people who create coffee tables, or this is my newest art picture. We have just like a different kind of, so you can kind of go on and say, I'm a local jewelry maker and I make these jewelry, I make these necklaces. Or we have this one lady who made these great perfumes that were like, or essential oils, but they were perfumes, smelled great. She was on the page. So it's a lot of that. We like to try to just make sure that people come in and they're excited about things.
It's a great opportunity to meet like-minded people in Austin or even beyond Austin that do love scary movies or all things that are kind of, considered dark. Have you made some, long lasting relationships from some of the people that you have met in the horror community?
I have actually. I think each and every single one of my closest friends that I treasure and love with all my heart are either people I've met at a old Austin Horror Society events or have been someone I met at a convention. I met a really great cosplayer friend of mine, in fact, literally 1 year ago at a Krampus bar crawl here in Austin. So I love her to death. And then, I get to meet all of these new people, and they're just, we actually, when I was talking earlier about how the founders of the group, well, that second set of people who took over the page, they were actually affected by the tornadoes last year, and their house was partially destroyed. And we actually got up on the page and said, hey, our like, these people we love to death are having issues. Their house got destroyed. Can you help? And literally within a day, we raised $10,000 for them to fix their house. And that was just one day of saying, hey, can anybody spare like $2 to help somebody out? And that was just so overwhelming to think that so many people popped on and was like, look, I can't afford much, but here's $5, and it was just amazing to see how the community just came together and said, how can we help you? What can we do? And some of these people you've only met once or twice, but you've made such an impression on just your love of just the community and your shared experiences of all things love of this, that, and the other in the horror community, that they're willing to be like, yes, I love you. You are my people. I'm going to help you in your time of need, so we can go off and be fun, happy horror fans together and continue our life, and that's just awesome.
I love that you brought that story up and that you use that as an example, because I think as somebody who loves these, depending horror, like you said, there's so many different types of scary movies. I mean, there's the campy 80s sort of stuff that I love. There's like the Saw type movies. I mean, there's such a big umbrella, but sometimes people from the outside, they have a certain perception of what somebody who likes those kind of movies, what they're like, or they think that you're very dark and that you're just depressed all the time and blah, blah, blah. What do you find to be some of the most common misconceptions about people in the horror world, or even the people that you've met with the Austin Horror Society? Because just because you like to wear black and, I just feel like there's a judgment all the time. I know why I like horror movies, because I never felt like I fit in growing up. And so for me, it was a place of safety. Sounds weird, but I really related to it.
I understand the tropes completely. So I have two great stories that I always tell people with this. So I do a lot. I not just do the horror stuff, but I like to branch out. So I do. I remember 1 year I was at Austin Film Festival, and I was volunteering at Austin Film Festival. And so you had all these people coming in from all over, and they're like, okay, so who are you? Because I have a tendency to wear flair, right? So I have like this hat that I wear that has this big like spider on my head. And I wear these because I'm always like, well, if you need a volunteer who just knows her stuff and who's the law to, can get you the information you need when you need it, you're going to be able to look for that girl and see the thing with the spider on her head and be like, I need that volunteer with a spider on her head, right? And so these people were like, hey, why do you dress this way? Or why do you have this thing on your head? And I was like, well, I run this group. It's a horror group. It's great. It's a love community. It's just my shared love of this, this genre. And people, I hate horror films. Well, what's some of your favorite horror movies? Oh, well, I like things like, like Silence of the Lambs. And I like, I just like those thriller mysteries. And I was like, well, you realize that those thriller mysteries are under that umbrella of horror movies. And you don't realize that because people think that horror movie is, I'm going to go in a room, I'm going to get stabbed to death, and then somebody's going to die, or somebody's going to get possessed by the devil and we're all going to die, right? But that's not it. You know, I've seen people talk about, there was this one movie, it was a dance movie, and to me, I don't feel like it had that horror aspect, but it's these dancers who get laced with drugs and they start freaking out and going through all of these motions, and they do these weird camera angles and twists and turns. And for me, I didn't feel like it was what I would classically say is a horror movie. However, I look at it, I'm like, yes, that's very scary for some people. And that is very mesmerizing and very mind blowing when you think about those things. You have a movie like Fargo that won all of these awards. It's a movie about people killing each other. It's a mystery about who did it, why they did it, and they're backstabbing and they're killing each other. So when you kind of go into this elitist of, oh, well, I really don't like that low class of movies, you're kind of discluding so many movies, from art house movies to big name budget movies, that you don't really realize fall under that umbrella until you actually stop to think about that movie. And so I tell people all the time, I'm like, you don't understand that you're discluding so many movies when you say that. So just keep an open mind of horror movies. They are not just slashers or gore porn, or, you know, these like ones where the girl gets trips over in the, you know, ocean and gets eaten by jaws. No, there's so much more to it, and there's so much more to think about. And I always tell people too, I'm like, you know, when you look at a movie like Hostel, you're looking at it as, oh, people are getting cut up in bad ways. No, it's a class structure. You're looking at it going, there's a hierarchy of rich people who employ poor people to kidnap middle class people to torture them to death. And these middle class people are going around into these other countries thinking they can do whatever the heck they want because they have some sort of elitist entitlement. And yet they're then put into this position where they're having things done to them because they don't have that entitlement. They don't have that, you know, well, I'm so and so and I come from such and such country, so I can get out of anything. You don't have that when you're trapped in a cell, you know? And so it's, you don't really think about it that way, and you don't really look at it from that aspect. And I think a lot of people miss out on that because they're just too busy thinking about, well, he got his toe cut off. Okay, but that's not what the movie is. Like, break it down and really think about what the movie is and what we're talking about in the movie before you start judging the movie. My next big thing too is about how people look at us. It's so funny people say that because I know school teachers who love to wear pink, and when you look at them, you're like, oh, she is such a basic Becky. She probably only watches Hallmark movies, never wants to watch a horror movie. And she is the biggest gore hound you've seen ever. She loves it. The gorier, the better. The more splatter and blood is the greatest thing she's ever seen, right? And then you see these people who are what we call classically goth, where they're all in black, pale makeup, introverted, never want to go out, but they don't like the slasher killer gore movies. They like the more introspective ones like Circle, where it's 50 people wake up, you know, in standing in a spot, and you now have to eliminate everybody in the circle for whatever reason and be the last one standing, you know? So they like those ones that make you think when you leave the movie and kind of just keep thinking about that movie after the fact. So we cover all kinds of genre of people. So when we go to festivals and we go to conventions, and we call them cons, but when we go to cons, conventions, I love it that when you go there, you won't just see the couples and like the one guy or the one girl. No, you see a plethora of people. You'll see, like yesterday when I was there, you had the PTA looking mom and the dressed up looking dad and his little like foo-foo sweater and his little, you know, very, you know, set up sweatshirt, and you know, you had the son running around in his football jersey, but then you had the daughter and she's dressed up like the clown from It, and her parents are just enjoying taking her around to this. And this little girl couldn't have been more than about maybe about 10 or 11, and she's just ecstatic ecstatic to be in this place where everybody's dressed up like Krampus and, the Grinch, and everybody's like, we've got a lady with a light bulb sticking out of her face that looked like she fell into a Christmas tree, and just little girls just running around, and she's just ecstatic, and you can see the brightness in her face, and you can just see the light of just, she's like, this is my world, this is my people, this is where I am, this is what I love. And her parents were just so great, and you could tell they just didn't get it, but every time they looked at their daughter, they were like, this is like, she loves this, so we're here for her. We're here to support her in her love of these things.
In terms of Austin, I don't feel like I know they have horror related things, of course, as you've mentioned, plenty of them, but I don't see a lot of cons coming through here. Is that something that you notice, or what is your thought on that?
So I actually have talked to a lot of the promoters and the people who put these conventions on. And so one of the biggest conventions in Texas is a little convention called Frightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And Frightmare is this massive, huge, could you get the dog, please?
Oh, that's cute.
So Frightmare is this massive convention where just these huge big name celebrities come, and they have hundreds of vendors, and it's outgrown itself. So when it first started, it was actually here in Austin, but then it got bigger and it got bigger and it got bigger, and the gentleman who runs it is named Lloyd, and he had to find another place to get it, and so he found some places up in Dallas, and it outgrew the convention center that it was at in Dallas, that they had to move it to another bigger convention center in Dallas just to hold, or in Irving up in Dallas, just to hold everybody. So that's kind of where this comes from. You start getting these little places, and they start getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they snowball. And so like, it's not that people don't start out here in Austin, but they start out here in Austin and they get so big that they have to move somewhere else. And I've talked to a lot of people, I'm like, well, why don't we have anything here in Austin? And one, it is very expensive to run a convention. And so you have to have good backers behind it. Two, it is, do we have a big enough space for it? And I keep trying to tell people, yeah, we have Austin Convention Center. And, we just recently had, they started converting over doing horror for the holidays there. And that was just a third of the space that was being used. This is a huge convention center. I don't know why they're not utilizing it better. But just recently, there has been some companies coming in, like Preserve Halloween, and they've done a couple up in Dallas, and they're actually going to be doing one here in Austin, and it's called the Final Girls Convention, or the Final Girls. And I'm very interested. I've talked to the guy who's running it a little bit. So it's not just going to be like Final Girls. There is going to be a lot of celebrities there who are the Final Girls in different movies, but it's also going to have just some other kind of celebrities in it who were in a different kind of movies and different kinds of genres. And that will be fun to have them there. And we'll see how well this kicks off, because if this kicks off and shows that, yes, we can do this, then we can start growing that. And like I said, we have smaller ones. Like we have my friend Mitch, he runs a magazine, a horror magazine called Gore Noir magazine, and he actually started doing a smaller convention called Nosferatu, and it only has like 1 or 2 people, and then it has about 20 to 30 vendors, but there's always a theme to it, and those are real fun to go to. But it's on the smaller end, which is great for some people, because some people don't want to go to a convention where there's 5,000 people and you're in this little room, because you start feeling claustrophobic and you're just like, this is just too overstimulating, too many people, too much stuff. So sometimes you want to go to those smaller ones where it's 1 or 2 people, you can kind of browse in, shop a little bit, see the 1 or 2 people and leave out, and it's not breaking your wallet. You don't have to buy a hotel room, you don't have to drive out, you can just kind of come in, do what you need to, and leave out. You've actually been promoting one as well, which is the new one that I've just known as the Galaxy. And I think another reason why they haven't really had too much here too is, remember, we used to be quite as people think of Austin as huge metroplex, and it wasn't. It only had, like what, 1 million people, but now we're up to 2.5 million people. And I just don't think that we've been tapped well enough. So we'll see how the final girls goes. And if that is a really big success, I can see more convention runners and people running different ones coming into Austin to try to do some more conventions here, because we do have a space for it. We do have the people willing to go do it, to spend money there. We just have to have the promoters and the people knowing that this is an untapped market. There's one last caveat that comes up with this too, is there's a lot of times promoters will be like, okay, well, you can do this show here in Houston, but you can't do another show for 350 miles. Well, that means they can go up to Dallas, and that means they could probably end up San Antonio, but is Austin far enough away from the last place that they did a big convention? So you logistically, you kind of have to pace yourself of where these celebrities can go in these different conventions. But again, if we have the people who are willing to put in the work, put in the resources, and actually, bring people here to a show, I can see it doing really, really well. And knowing that this is an untapped market, and I can see it taking off really big.
So if people want to take part in any sort of Austin Horror Society events, or where can they go to find information about everything that's happening in our community related to horror?
So we do have a very big Facebook group. I've tried to integrate a lot of it over to Instagram. My Instagram is just not as built out. I've actually just found somebody she's like very excited to help me with the Instagram, to make it a little bit better, to make it a little bit more inclusive, the way that we have Facebook, of just announcing everything and putting up more promotional stuff.
Is there anything else that you want to add, or anything that we missed?
I hope that people understand that Austin does have a very great collection of, horror and goth and emo and thriller, and we just have that great umbrella. And I just hope that everybody, just support our local, independent filmmakers. They have like Butcher's Bluff that just came out. One of our big moderators, Boudros, he puts out all kinds of movies under his Penny Lane production company, and they do all of these smaller ones, and it's wonderful. We have the different like Scream Hollow and some other haunted houses that are local in the area. It's like, go out and support those. They have all kinds of events going on all the time. Support them. They have, Secret October, Bloody Rose, House of Torment. They have I Love Video. All of those help bring these communities together and help they have these events going on to where they're fostering new people and new community and new voices that you wouldn't necessarily be able to hear, and new events that bring people in to letting what's out there. And I love them dearly with all my heart. So I really want people just to go out and just check out everybody who's doing something, because as I tell everybody, keep it local, keep it creepy, please support your local creepies. So